Hello and welcome to the NR6 tutorial. NR6 is basically a Hetman upgrade. Hetman was I think it was during Arma 2 as well. I'm not quite sure, but it was a dynamic mission making tool for some battles. It had its restrictions though. It had 4 objectives that you could capture. You needed to script to make it work. It was a lot of copy pasting though, so it wasn't that hard. But anyways, it was quite restrictive. NR6 makes it a lot better. It makes it a lot simpler to use, and it gets rid of the 4 objective limit that Hetman had. So it's a good tool. If you want to have a battle, you can't use it for the whole map. I mean, you can technically, but the lag would be horrendous because there's no virtual reality like in Alive. But virtual reality is a bit of a cheat. For example, if you're here in Gachi and you want to have artillery barrage in Sislo and you haven't changed the default value of the virtual AI limit, and you have artillery going here, none of the squads will die because they are in virtual reality. They don't get the effects of the artillery. It's a bit of a cheat. Of course, the virtual AI reality troops do fight each other. So if you have blue 4 units being in virtual reality going against op 4, they will fight, but it's not happening actually. It's just a bunch of scripts running around, and yeah, I don't like it. And in general, the Alive just seems to have squads running around quite pointlessly. With NR6, you're not going to have that. And other limitations Alive has, it only works in certain maps. I think in Stasso it does work, but in most of the maps it just doesn't. Well, in the most popular ones it does, but yeah. If you get a good new map, you're going to have to wait for a month or 2 to get it working with Alive, and chances are it's not going to work perfectly after that. So yeah, but NR6 is good for, I'm not going to say small scale. It's going to work for smaller scale battles. You don't want to populate the whole map, but you can have a part of the map. You could easily have the whole northern part here and use the module here caching system. So let's go. HAL core. So this is a module that you need. It basically enables the whole system of NR6 to run. The only option it has is the startup delay. It's 15 seconds by default. If you want to have a base where you basically set up to go to the front, you might want to change it to like 300 or whatever, but let's give it a 15 now. General settings, there's some quite useful options here. Enable cargo recon. So basically, if cargo assets, cargo meaning lifts for troops to get from place A to place B, helicopters, trucks, whatever, they can be given recon orders. So recon order is basically if you are having an objective with Mokray and the commander is somewhere here, he doesn't know what's going on there, he's going to send recon squads, whatever, helicopters, planes to basically do reconnaissance on the area. And if you want to use your lift for that, you can have this enable, otherwise disable it. Synchronized planned attacks, simple, it's really good. I adore it basically. So if you have it enabled, for some reason by default it's disabled. So if you have 4 squads, let's say 3 squads attacking Mokray, and if you have it disabled, they're just going to go there all at once. Not all at once, separately. So Group 1 would go there, die, then Group 2 would go there, die, and lastly Group 3 would go there and die at their own pace. If you have it enabled, they will gather at one point and start the attack simultaneously. So it's more effective, it feels more like real war, essentially. So then radio communication is basically visuals for radio messages, I think. Chance for communication between AI and commander to be visible and audible, yeah. Then we go to actions menus and stuff. I would keep this unchanged from add group ID for BFT to only use ace actions. It's basically no need to change these. Ace actions menu. It's just basically a way for you to ask for support from the commander. you have the vanilla menu you can use, you have the ace interaction menu you can use for that, artillery orders, whatever. Then we go to disable withdraw players. So you have withdraw orders if you suffer enough losses on the battlefield. So if it's disabled as it is, it's disabled. Withdraw players as it's enabled, it means withdraw orders are disabled. It's a bit tricky. So you won't be withdrawn from the battle by the commander. It's good to have it enabled. Disable cargo players. So this is basically forced lifts. So if you start from here, Botlesi, and you want to go to Mokray, you can ask yourself from the action menu for a lift, but if it's enabled, you're not forced to have one, which is a good thing to do because you want to be in control of your own group. But if you feel like it, you can just disable it. NR6 sites garrisons can be enabled. NR6 has its own garrison module here. Squad info share range. Basically, if you have a squad here and this tree marker right here, and you have a squad, let's say 1 kilometer up south, north, if you had it like 1500, this squad will be aware of what's happening here automatically. But the commander does issue commands anyways, like for nearby squads if there's large attack coming from the south, for example. This squad should get help. Sling load ammo drop, never used it, but it's quite simple. Auto mode, don't know what that does, doesn't have any explanation for it. Oh yeah, actually I think I do know what it means. Pathfinding increments, yeah, 0. Don't know what that does either. So this auto mode is basically, I think it detects automatically what kind of groups are there. So you have these tools here, NR6 tools. So you can define the squads yourself by syncing T's to the squads. So if you have anti-air infantry squad, you can just put this module here and sync it to that, so the commander knows that they are AA. So it should do it automatically, but with some modifications stuff it doesn't work properly. So I always use this. It's not big of a hassle because you're not going to have that many groups anyways. So heavy armor, for example, if there's a tank, just sync it to the tank and good to go. Happy days. And yeah, let's move on to the commander modules, which are the most essential ones. You need to spawn commander modules. So you go to AI commander selection, you have leaders from A to H, so you can have multiple platoons, for example, fighting, and that's a good thing. It adds so many possibilities. AI lead site, blue 4 or 4 independent civilian. I don't know what you can do with that, but yeah, it's quite self-explanatory. HQ call sign, if you want to have a custom call sign for it, just go ahead and do that. It could basically work without using any of these modules here, but if you want to have that extra bit of customization that you obviously want to have, you need to place these: behavior, objectives, personality, settings, and support. You want to sync these modules to the commander module. The commander module is basically the heart of the whole thing. So let's start with the behavior settings. I usually keep from smoke for retreat up to surrender behavior enabled, and if you want to change them, I'm sure you understand what they do. You can just hover with your mouse and you will see an explanation for it. Morale coefficient, I put it to 0, because basically what it does, if it gets below a certain threshold, the commander will just stop doing anything. I don't want to have that happen because it does run out quite quickly. So 0 is good. I don't want this battle to just end, but I think it might have something to do with surrender behavior. I've seen it happen that my AI squad actually surrendered. They put their hands up. It was quite cool actually. Rush mode. It means every squad under the commander will run every time, everywhere, even in patrols, which is not a pretty sight actually, so I keep it disabled. Withdrawal coefficient, threshold for troops to be withdrawn. I usually keep this around 0.2 because they get withdrawn quite easily anyways. Max air asset distance, yeah, nothing to worry about. Dynamic formation, keep it enabled, so basically the squads will change formations, it doesn't just stick with the one they have when you place them in the editor. These radius multipliers are quite useful. So let's say you have an objective here, for example, right there, and you have it set at 1 as they are by default. So you will get the squads will get commands to go there, but the radius multiplier is basically how far from the objective can they go. So if it's 1, they could go from here, even though the objective is somewhere around there. Another squad will go there, another squad will go right in the middle. If it's, let's say, I like to use 0.2. So that means the front itself, it's not as wide, and you get more battle at a smaller area, basically. So that's good if you like fighting, let's say, in the forest, for example. I like to fight in the forest a lot. So if you have an objective here and you want the forces to be fighting in a narrow area, you want to put it to like 0, 0.1, whatever. It's quite useful thing to do, as it says. Multiplier for how far from the target's position the initial waypoint will be placed during infantry attack orders, for example. Quite useful, but if you're just having a normal battle, you might just want to leave it at 1. UAV deploy altitude doesn't really apply to World War II scenario here, but yeah, they use it for recon. It's quite cool. Alright, let's move to another one. Objective settings. Force defense mode, force attack mode, quite simple to understand. If you want the other commander to be attacking the whole time, you want to enable for that one, and for the defending commander, if you don't want it to counter attack ever, but defense mode enabled. But you can have those disabled, it's good. Simple mode, you want to use this one, I can't stress this enough. You want to use the simple mode. It's so much better than the old Hetman legacy mode where you had only 4 objectives. With simple mode, you can have X number of objectives. There's no limit really. Never capture. I don't know why you would use this. So basically, the commander goes to objective and feels like it's never getting captured. So they stay there indefinitely, basically. Capture strength, number of units that must be at the objective to capture. I'm not quite sure how it works. Like if you have nine men in a squad, does it mean like it's not sufficient enough? That's why I use it at 5 usually. Garrison attack range, if you have a garrison here in Gachi and infantry here, they can attack it. Time to capture objective is seconds, so it takes a minute. Relocating commander, that is legacy mode stuff. So basically, if an objective would be captured, the commander would move there if you have a commander set as a unit. Chance skip recon. This is quite important one. So if you have a normal battle and you want to have recon missions, keep this at 10 or 0. But if you have a battle where you want the forces to go at each other right from the get-go, you want to put it like, as it says, like 1000. Then you won't have any recon orders ever. Fast capture. You can read what it says. Chance for the commander to focus on capturing objectives instead of engaging hostiles on each cycle. Yeah, usually 10 would work. Defensive ownership size. Well, I usually keep these around 2. Recon reserve ratio. This is basically if the commander wants to have reserves for certain missions. If you're attacking, you want the defensive reserve ratio to be set as 0. So you don't have any squads, or shouldn't have any squads being reserved for defensive orders because you're not defending anything. All it wants is legacy mode stuff and AAO as well. We're not going to go into high command mode. I'm not sure if it works. Oh yeah, it's part of legacy mode anyways, so you really don't need that. And objectives, one simple mode. So how many objectives can the commander attack at once? Usually you want to set this up by how many objectives there are in total. I usually keep it around 3, but for this kind of scenario where I will be having maybe 5 objectives at most, I think 3, 2 is a good number. Personality, quite simple. It's basically how the AI commander behaves. I usually keep for the German side in these World War II scenarios competent or eager, and for the Soviet side aggressive if they are attacking. Commander settings, fast orders, never use that one. Communication delay. So basically, as in real life, the communication isn't like straight away, especially in World War II. I wouldn't really touch this at all. I think 1 is good. Commander chat orders, if you want to have the chat orders visible here. Map radio messages, these are quite self-explanatory. You don't want to change these up to the cycle duration or cycles on demand. Control all side groups. So basically you have a few ways to have groups under the command of your commander. So if you want all the blue forces on the map to be under the control of the blue 4 commander, you want to enable this one. Then we have a few more of these just basically intel stuff that you can use if you want to. BFT markers is good. It basically shows all the troops on the map and enemies that have been detected by friendly forces. Artillery markers, I usually keep it enabled. It shows you where your friendly artillery is going to hit, so you can avoid those places. Actually, especially if you're fighting in a forest, for example, the artillery is quite blue and blue. It's quite dangerous, so you want to keep it enabled if you want to have artillery in your mission. Objective status tasks, yeah, SSS, it does give an error to me as well, so I never use it. Debug, it's good if you test your scenario out, like where the commanders are placing orders and stuff. So when you're debugging a mission, just keep it enabled, but for now, let's keep it disabled. So, and then support settings. In the World War II scenario, there's not much support that you can have. Cargo fine range. It's basically if there's a squad right next to a truck, it will use it. If it by default it's 1. So yeah, you want to keep it at 1 basically. Don't worry about it. Disable air cargo. So basically, if you enable this, it means there won't be any air cargo. Well, there won't be any anyways because it's World War II. Land cargo, basically ground transport, trucks. Medical support, sadly, it's not ACE compatible. So if you use ACE like I do, it doesn't really matter. I haven't used it with the vanilla. So in theory, when a squad gets there's squad members being in the revive state, the medical support should go there. Fuel support is not ACE compatible. Ammo, only paratroop if ACE is active. Repair, not ACE compatible. Yeah, it sucks, but yeah, what can you do? Support waypoints, haven't used it. RT ordnance coefficient. So basically, if you raise this number, you should get more shells being dropped if you have artillery in your mission. So now we have the first commander set. So as we go to the commander setting module, control all side groups. If I place a blue 4 group, Kampfgruppe, this group will automatically be under command of the HAL commander. So that's quite simple. So now we can just copy this commander and put the Soviet commander here. So when you copy the commander, what you want to do, you want to change the leader side, and you can't have leader A, 2 leader A's, you need to change to leader B, and now it's up 4. And what you want to do, if you want to change the personality and stuff, we can change this to aggressive. As I said, I like to do that for the Soviet commander. Objectives, yeah, let's not get into any of that. So basically it's all up to you how you want to set up your commanders. This behavior and stuff. What I'm going to show you, there's another way. If you have multiple commanders, for example, go to commander settings, you control side groups, disable that one. Then you can have the include squads. So basically every squad that goes through this module will be included to be under command of this commander. So if you have two Ret 4 commanders, you need to use this one because you can't have the all side groups if you have two commanders. Let's go to Red Army, just 80 squad for example, just to show you how it works. There we go, sync it to include squads, happy days, it should work. This squad should be under command of this commander. Then there's another thing that I'd like to show you. If you don't place any unit directly sync it to the commander module, there will not be a physical commander. But if you, for example, let's take NKVD Lieutenant, sync it to commander module, this means this bloke right here is the commander. And there will be, if you have special forces, they will guard this commander, and I think if you don't, there will be troops assigned to protect the commander. So if this bloke dies, the standard is basically over. There's no one to give commands anymore. And I actually sync this to a blue 4 commander. You don't want to do that. You want to sync it to the up 4 commander. There we go, we have a commander. But you don't have to have it. If you want the battle to continue like indefinitely, you maybe don't want to have a commander, a physical commander. But it's good, like if you want to have special operations, marksman, whatever, you can actually have tasks to kill the commander itself, which is quite cool. So let's go to the objectives now. You want to use the simple one, not the legacy one. You also have naval objectives for ships and stuff, but I haven't really used those. So when you open the objective module, you have set taken by commander. So if you put this leader A, that means this is already taken by the German forces. So we can just copy paste a few of these. Alright, and let's put one in Gachi. Alright, and you have the set value. So basically they are by default 5. But if this one would be 10, that would mean both of the commanders synced to the objective would have a larger priority over Guchov than, for example, Gachi. And then let's place one in Mokre as well, and let's put it to leader B, so that one is taken by the Soviet commander. And the way to make it work, these commanders are now not aware of these objectives being there. You need to sync them. So, for example, if you had 2 platoons here, you would have one right here up north. You don't want to sync these objectives to it, because basically then these 2 commanders of the same of other platoons would attack the same objectives. No, you don't want to do that. So let's take these objectives here. I'm going to make the easy way, just use the left hand place here and sync to the commander here, and we want this enemy commander to be aware of the same places, so we sync it there. So basically now you have a basic layout of how the battle system works, but we don't have any units yet except for this one squad here, but it's not going to do much of a battle if we don't have any Germans here. So there's a few ways how you can place your fighting troops. You can just hand place them like this. Let's place a few. Alright, we have 3 squads here, and these are under control of this commander because we set it to have all side groups, and the commander is blue 4, so all blue 4 units will be under his command. For the red 4 commander, it doesn't work like that because we turned it off. So you want to place squads here. There we go. And you need to sync the squad leader. So control left click, sync, and include squads. Okay, so now this commander has 4 squads. And there's another way to do this. If you are the mission maker, you want to be, you don't want to be aware of how the enemies start their mission, basically. So you have an option here, NR6 Forces. You have Spawn Forces module, which is basically, it spawns squads around a certain radius that it's changeable. So let's say we want 3 groups, spawn radius 500. Faction, I usually just type custom. It should get it from the side anyways, doesn't really matter. Blade disable range, no, we don't want that. There we go. And then you need, this is a huge module, asset compiler. You sync it to the Spawn Forces module. Alright, so what asset compiler does, let's place Red Army squad here. If you sync this, it basically creates a pool of units that will be spawned by the Spawn Forces module, and it does save loadouts. It does save loadouts. So if I want to, let's take this guy for example, and I wanted to have, let's say, this AT rifle. Oh yeah, it doesn't work, by the way. PTRD 41, and I wanted to have a, let's say, for some reason, 1500 bell. There we go. When it spawns, it will have those. It will have those. It does save loadouts. It's a great addition from Ninja Rider 600. I really love this module. So yeah, we have that. You can also hand place troops, random troops that you want. Let's place private, sergeant, second lieutenant. Yeah, there we go. Private in lead of the squad. I don't know what for. Alright, so basically it does create a pool of troops that will spawn randomly, and these troops disappear. It's basically just a pool, so it doesn't really matter how you place them, and it does use a certain level of probability. So now we have 3 of these squads and 1 of these, just 3 guys basically in a squad, a fire team. So now when the squads spawn, theoretically there should be a 75% chance for these squads to spawn and 25% chance for this fire team to spawn. It's quite easy. There's nothing hard about it. That's the way it works. And let's say if you have an AT squad, we don't have an AT squad at the moment, but let's say if this squad, well actually we do have an AT rifle with that one bloke here, yeah. So you take the squad leads and you sync them to AT infantry. So now the commander knows these squads here are AT infantry. If they spot a tank somewhere, these squads will be sent there to fight it off. It's quite good. It's really good, yeah. So now we have the Spawn Forces module here, and we want the commander to be aware of those. I think it should work. I quite rarely use the include squads module. I usually just have 2 commanders using all the forces of one side. But I think it should work. These squads should go under his command automatically. If that doesn't happen, try syncing this to include squads as well. But I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. So that one should be set up. There should be these squads here and Spawn Forces squads as well. And this guy should have, let's put a few more. Alright, and now they will attack these objectives defined right here. Then you have the reinforcement module, which is quite useful as well. So basically, you don't want to have 50 squads running around at once. The lag will be horrendous. So you can use the same asset compiler if you want to. You don't have to if you don't like it. You can have your custom pools, whatever. But I think you can just use one that's a compiler. I don't know what for you would use multiple, but yeah. I mean, like, you can't sync this one reinforcement module to 2 asset compilers. You just need to have one, but you can have another here if you want to and just desync this one and put it here and have your own pool for the reinforcements. But yeah, it's the same thing. Basically, sync the reinforcement. It's pretty similar to the Spawn Forces module. As a compiler, has its own settings. Remember to set aside. If you leave it to blue for, it's going to be horrendous. Spawn radius, it's basically how far the squads will spawn from the module, and 300 means to each side, so basically it's now up to here and down to here. Alright, so of 4 spawns per wave, how many squads will spawn when it drops below the threshold defined over here? No, 1 should be good enough. How many squads will it spawn? Let's put 20. Faction custom, I think you can leave it blank, but I use custom because it says so. Threshold is basically how much damage does a squad on the battlefield need to get for the reinforcement module to activate. I usually leave it at 1. I think if you lower it like 0.5, maybe like if half a squad dies, you will get a new one. Player disable range is for immersion, so you don't see, you're not here and seeing squad spawn there. Maybe 1,000, yeah, that works. There you go. It's simple as that. And then you just sync the reinforcement module to the commander, so the commander is aware. And again, I'm not quite sure about include squads. Do you need to sync this one to there as well? I think you do not, but you can just be aware if it doesn't work. Alright, so now we're set up. The German commander doesn't have any reinforcements. This is just for educational purposes, so I don't want to do it again. And yeah, that's basically how to get the battle working in the simple way. I try to be brief as possible. There's also this module, which is basically a virtual AI system for NR6. It's not virtual. What it does, it's really great. If a player is more than 1.5 kilometers away from an AA squad, what happens? All of these blokes will disappear, but they will still be there. But it reduces lag. The squad leader will be visible, and if they get into contact, they will reappear. So it's not as cheating as the virtual AI stuff for the alive. And one last thing I want to show you: if you want to add artillery, you go to, for some reason, by the way, the World War II what are they? Mortars, they're not working because they have problems with A's, so you want to stay away from those. So let's take, I know for a fact that this one works. So just spawn. Alright, and you might want to regroup a few of these. So now we have a squad of 4 cannons ready to shoot, and this side had control all side group, so we don't need to sync this to include squads module. You would have to do that if you're playing in the Soviet side, which didn't have that. So let's go to tools, artillery, and sync it. It should automatically detect it, but you can't be certain, so do that just in case. And you can actually, as a player, call for artillery support as well, which is really cool. You can have multiple of these here if you want to, just like the options are limitless basically. Sync it there, it should work. Happy days, everything works. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out, was there anything else I should show you? Yeah, maybe the transport sets. So there's also a plane thing, but the airfields are not really working in Stasho. I can show it to you anyways, but let's go to Geist and go to a Blitz. There we go. So we have a car here for transport. Actually a bit too here. Alright, so what I like to do, I go to squad properties, transport only. There we go. Sync it, transport only, and you need to sync the transport only to the heart of side, which is the commander. A lot of these modules need to be synced with the commander. Alright, and then I like to reassure the stuff with unarmed cargo vehicles module, so the commander is fully aware that they are unarmed cargo vehicles and they will get transport orders. Alright, so that's a simple way to do that. If you would have the include squads module, remember to sync these two cars to that as well. I'm going to show you quickly the air reinforcement module. So I'm not sure how the pathfinding goes with this airfield, so I'm just going to put the plane here. Usually they work quite alright, but I've had difficulties in this map. Alright, so we have a plane here. Spawn the plane empty. Remember, spawn the plane empty. There's a few of these modes that you can use. There's A, B, C. I always use the C. The C requires the plane to be empty and take off from an airport. Side blue 4 is going to be a German plane. Threshold. How many planes will be active at once? Let's put 2. So you see what I mean. So you can have 2 of these. Alright. Sync it. Actually have a third one. So what now will happen? The threshold is 2. 2 of these planes will take off. One will be here on the ground on standby. And if one of these planes gets shot down, this one will take off. It's really quite useful. Alright, blue 4, threshold 2, argument blah blah blah. Yep, that's good to go. And you sync this one to there. Commander. Alright. And again, I'm not sure if you need to sync this to include squads if you have that module going on. And then what I like to do, go to ground tech aircraft, sync these 2 planes to that. And you can also have recon aircraft. It's basically just giving information to ground troops where the enemy forces are. Alright, so that's it basically. That's how to get it working in a simple way. Hopefully you understand the system a bit better. At first I was quite overwhelmed with everything with the modules it has and stuff, but it's not that hard. The main thing is to remember objectives work by syncing them to the commander, and yeah, just remember how to sync everything, how to set everything up. It's not that hard. You will have good battles. Just, you know, meddle with it a bit to get it working the way you like it to work. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, cheers.